welcome Reverend Karin Wilson. So, you're good now, right? You're all grounded, you're all blissed out. That's great, because now I want to talk about some stuff that's going to make you uncomfortable. So I figure I might as well, prime the pump a little bit. So just a bit of a backstory about Sunday and the creation of CSL Yaletown, which is super important in the context of this particular talk that I've worked on for today. One of the things that typically we do on Sundays is more traditionally we call it a Sunday celebration. And I was always kind of like, yeah, that's kind of nice, but sometimes I'm not feeling very celebratory when I'm come in on a Sunday. Sometimes I just have stuff going on. And when I think about the science of mind, what I really think about is, yes, we're celebrating spirit, true, but really what this is about for me is about setting an intention. And that's why we do that word, at the end of the week, at the end of the talk, at the end of the day, trying to figure out, okay, so what do we want to put into consciousness? Because that's what this is about. It's about resetting our intention every week. And yes, we celebrate the fact that we're resetting our intention. So my feeling is that this is an intention service. We're doing this by intention. And if there hadn't been an intention way back when in, say, my consciousness to sort of start something that I thought maybe might be interesting, which was just maybe I'll take a class, right? And then it just keeps following along, and it followed along, and eventually that intention ended up being exactly what's here now. So you think about it, we are now just having, and I just realized this moment, we have just crossed the 100 Sunday mark, right? Having done 2 years, that means it takes 2 years to cross 100 Sundays. So we've been doing that intentionally, right? And putting our consciousness in intentionally. And so we know what happens when we do things with intention, and then we know what happens when we do things without intention. Things just happen. And so that's what I want to talk about today, is that sort of feeling of things. So the entire month of December, we're focusing on the light. We're having a celebration of light, not a celebration of life, although that's good too, a celebration of light. And that light, of course, is the light that's within each and every one of us. And it's not, there is this feeling that we get around it being something that is specific to the Christian faith, but I want us to really practice expanding our consciousness during this month about how many faiths are celebrating the light this month. So there's actually 8 faiths from around the world. I won't give all of the names because I probably can't memorize them. There's some that I have trouble pronouncing. But they all have recognizable celebrations at different times for light. That's not an accident, right? Regardless of what their philosophical ideologies may be, they're all focused. So throughout the world, there are millions and millions and millions of people thinking right now about light. And what I think is especially interesting about it is the great teacher, and I remind us, Jesus, we consider him a great teacher, was Jewish, right? Of course. And he proclaimed, "You are the light of the world." But this year, Hanukkah is actually happening December 24th, right through to January 1st. So our seasons are very, very blended. And the celebration of Hanukkah is the festival of light. And it is, specifically, I looked it up, the triumph of light over darkness, of purity over adulteration, and of spirituality over materiality. Isn't that speaking to consciousness? Spirituality over materiality. Not looking at what appearances are, looking past appearances, past that materiality into the spiritual. So it doesn't really matter which tradition you're operating from, we're all aiming for that same light. And we're all aiming for it, at least in our northern sphere, in the midst of our darkest, right? I can't speak for the south. They got a different experience going on. But here we are being called to see our light as we are losing the light. So the call is even greater and perhaps even more difficult, because I don't know about you, but you wake up in darkness, you go to bed in darkness. You know, I get tired at 5. Like my circadian rhythm is running out of steam because it's dark, and yet I've still got a whole bunch of things to do. So there's that tension that goes on. And the other tension that also goes on in this season is the tension that starts to crop up. You know, they keep pushing the boundary around it earlier and earlier. Some say it's starting right after Halloween. Others say it's starting right after Remembrance Day. But there's that Christmas season tension that starts to show up. And my personal belief around that, it has a lot to do with coming to grips with relationships, coming to grips with the contradiction between a season that's supposed to be all about love, and what do? We go, yeah, but what about that family member that I don't want to see? I'm going to have to sit down at a Christmas dinner. Maybe I don't feel like going this year. Could we do it differently so that, and I don't have enough money, and you know, all those limitations and all those things that really, in a lot of ways, don't matter, and once again, get in the way of the light. So what I wanted to do was talk specifically about that, and I wanted to give you a couple of quotes from Ernest Holmes, which I think are particularly interesting for this time of year. He says, self-healing must come first of all. So remember all those things that I said, you know, we're trying to resist around family, around whatever. Well, you know, opportunity to look at ourselves and try and figure out where our light is in all of that. He says, if we think we can guide our brother aright, while our own feet still walk in darkness, we are mistaken. We must first clarify our own vision, then we shall become as lights, lighting the way for others. So again, what's our intention? What is our intention? So I want to talk about what happens when you don't have an intention, or when you have a subconscious intention that starts to run the show. And I told you I was going to tell you about my visit to Nelson. So this week, last Saturday, I got a call from my sister who said, you know, I don't think our mom is doing that well. So I can't make it to go out to Nelson. Would you be willing to do that? And I said I could, and knowing that I had a board meeting and there were a lot of things on my plate, so it was like, well, I can certainly go, but I'm going to need to bring some work with me, and you know, it'll be a bit of a balancing act, but I'll do that. So I left on Tuesday, and she had a cold, and I won't go into all the details, but I wasn't sure where things were. There were a few medical things that were showing up, and I wasn't too sure where things were. And I walk in, and the first image I get of somebody that I know to be very vibrant, very whole, very all of those lovely things, is someone who is, honestly, it looked like nearing the end of her life. It was a shock. I just sat there. The room, her entire apartment was in silence. There was no music on. Her, you know, she's a constant CBC listener. There was no CBC on. She wasn't reading. She was literally sitting in her chair in silence with her eyes closed. And now I'm in the room with her, and she's continuing to do that. I'm breathing kind of heavy at this point, right? Trying to understand what's going on. And the doctor's appointment wasn't going to be for another day or so. And what I started to experience was a whole bunch of what I thought was, me thinking, right? What I thought was, you know, well, I got to fix this. Right? So, you know, let's just see what's happening here. How's she eating? How, you know, what can I work on that'll fix things? And maybe I can do some cleaning, right? Because obviously she can't do any cleaning. So I'll go do some cleaning, and then I'll go and do this, and then I've got to, you know, do my work as well. And so I'm going to go and do that. And then maybe I should cook some meals. And so I'm going to go and do that. And then as I'm having all of these experiences, at the same time I'm getting, you know, pretty tense. Seriously. And so in the morning, that's my meditation time, and I would get up and I'd do my meditation, and as long as I got my coffee and I've had my meditation, I'm good. But, you know, another 45 minutes, hour would go by, and I'm back into, okay, what can I do? What can I fix? What can I? And really, in essence, to be honest with you, it didn't get a whole heck of a lot better than that. And I'm just being really, really honest with you about what's going on for me, because I don't think that I'm unusual in this regard. And I thought, so before things got worse, of course they got, or before things got better, of course they got worse. So just to make things really interesting, the flight out of Castlegar got canceled. So now I can't get home. And now I'm thinking, how am I going to make sure that I'm here for you guys on Sunday? And so it resulted in a redirection of my flight. I ended up in Castlegar overnight on a bus, in a hotel overnight, and flew back. And so what was that all about? Really, what was that all about? On the bus ride, I'm asking the question, what's this all about? I couldn't take in anything. I'd taken in everything I possibly could, right, from what was happening. And as I'm there trying to process this and be, you know, the good person that I'm supposed to be, I realized I really blew it. I really blew it. And so I spent some time beating myself up about, I really blew it. And then I just thought, okay, well, I'm just going to let it go. And then I got on, and more time, and I thought, I can't give up on this. There's a reason why all of this is happening. So finally, I'm on my flight back from Cranbrook, you know, and of course it's a longer flight than Castlegar. Kind of funny, right? And so that means I've got even more time than I had before. And all of a sudden, it starts to come to me. And I realize, what happened here? What was my intention? What intention did I actually set? So the intention that I realized I had actually set was, get her done. That was the intention I set, get her done. Is that really a good, useful intention? Is that really how things work? And at this time of year, is that really what I'm aiming for? Is that really what I want? And yet that was exactly what happened. And so when I couldn't get things done, it gave me an opportunity to beat myself up. So I started to think about all of that Christmas season and all of these things that are happening right now, and how we can actually make a difference by choosing what intention we really want to have, as opposed to what intention just happens to be going around. I picked up on everything, right? I became like a sponge for every other sensitivity thing energetically that was going on around me. And I just took all of that in, all of it. And, you know, the result was I left. I arrived in tension and I left. Not with intention, I mean tension. Drop the in part, right? I arrived in tension. I left in tension instead of intention, right? So I want to share with you, and I'm looking at it on my iPhone because I want you to know how real this is for me, okay? Not on here. This isn't the, you know, I just made this up thing. This is what happened. So this is the list that I wrote myself for, and I won't go into all of it because some of it obviously is going to be personal, but I want you to just hear what these are around what my intention is for the next time I spend time with my mother, or the next time I spend time with anybody who's a member of my family that I maybe have challenge with. And this is what it comes to. I'm just struggling with light here. I might need to go over here where this is. You can still hear me? I'm not... Okay, so just help me a little bit with the light. Oof, it's really weird. Okay, so these are my notes. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to... Now I'm in the darkness, so okay. I need to ground myself in love. Ground yourself in love. And everything's written as though it's coming from out there. It's most fascinating. This is exactly how it came down. Ground yourself in love. You are only there for love. You think about Christmas and this season of light. We're only here for that. It's not about any of that other stuff. If we think it's about any of that other stuff, we're zooming ourselves. If you've got like one slice of turkey to share with somebody, and I mean that, one slice of turkey to share with somebody, and you're willing to share that slice of turkey with somebody, and you bring love consciousness into that experience, that's what matters. It's the love that people will remember. It is not about the slice of turkey, right? It's not about what's under the tree. It's not about any of those things. It's about that connection between people and that connection between the heart. So you're only there for love. The other thing, nothing else matters. The other thing, everything that shows up is an opportunity for love. Everything. The next thing I wrote down here is, do not say anything. Do not use your words until you know how to say it with love. Shut up, Karen. Just shut up. Like, really, shut up. Like, stuff came out of my mouth and I was like, ah! Because I was in that place. Do not leave your bedroom in the morning until you are in peace. And then the other one, there were two other ones that I think are really important. Refuse to allow yourself to be tempted into denial by doing so-called urgent tasks. There is nothing more urgent than supporting, listening, and loving. Nothing. And then the other one is, if something does come up in you, recognize it as a fear of loss. Grieve the loss silently and willingly, and then reemerge once more. Do not be confused by anger. It is only you being in fear. So when we have those moments, when we're in those, long history, 50 decades, 5 decades, right, of relationship or something, and we're in that tension place, sometimes there's a temptation to say, I need to set my boundaries, or I need to do this, or I need to be this, and this is what it's all about. And say, really, that's a fear place. You really think about it. It's true, we have to protect ourselves. And if there is serious damage that has been done, I encourage you to make sure that you do protect yourself. So I'm not talking about those situations. Those are quite different. But there's still even a loving element of that radical forgiveness in that. And so maybe you radically forgive at that time, and you do your work at home before you enter into the dynamic. Do your work in advance. Set your intention in advance. Set your mind up in advance. And then you will reap a completely different experience. So I'm saying this out loud today because this is my commitment, and it's entitled Next Time I See My Mom. That's what the note is, and I'm going to make sure that it's on every device so I can't lose it, because I need to look at that. I need to look at that to remind myself about what's important, how I want to be, because I want to be happy. I want to be happy. Maybe that's selfish, but I want to. And I want the last years that I have with my mother, who I deeply, deeply, deeply value, to be years of love. Right? None of the other stuff matters. And as I was thinking about her, when you get to that stage, and I'm not there yet, but she is, what does she want? At the end of her days, she's going to say, you know what, all I need to know is that somebody loves me, somebody understands me, and that I have somebody to love. None of the other stuff matters. Intention will get us there. Intention gets us everywhere. Intention gives us the strength and the wisdom to be able to move forward. And Raymond Charles Barker, who we're reading with The Power of Decision, he says these things, and I think they're fantastic. He says, think of your mind, and remember all the metaphors that we're going through this month, think of your mind as the birthplace of God's intentions. What was born in this month in the Christian tradition was that idea of light. That was what was born, and that's in us. So he says, think of your mind as the birthplace of intention. If you can think it, you can be it. That's our job. And then he says, original ideas are the result of an immaculate conception. Which I thought was quite brilliant. And then the last thing is actually from John 1:9, and it says, the true light that enlightens everyone was coming into the world. You are the light of your life. So that's really what you are. And so if we recognize that we are the lights and we get to shine that to others, they see that. Who doesn't respond positively to that? People will try to not, right? But you persist and they can't help themselves. That's the truth of it, right? So you shine that and it's contagious. And what a great contagious thing to have instead of all the other stuff that goes around.
Thank you so much.